What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and today we are talking about The Exorcist Believer. This direct sequel is co-written and directed by David Gordon Green, who is responsible for the latest Halloween trilogy, as we follow the story of two girls who go missing in the woods, only to return 3 days later with no memory of what happened to them. The father of one of the girls seeks Chris McNeil, who is forever altered by the events that happened to her daughter 50 years ago. When it comes to the original horror classic The Exorcist, I am a casual fan at best. I actually saw, out of this entire franchise, the Rennie Harlan prequel first, and I had no idea how much people hated that one, only for the studio to kind of throw back some more money and release the original cut. Last year, when I did my 31 Days of Halloween Horror Movie Marathon, it was the first time I actually got to watch the sequel, The Heretic, and that was boring as fuck. Got to watch The Exorcist 3, and I unexpectedly loved that one. It kind of had a little bit of a David Fincher meets Stanley Kubrick and William Friedkin kind of vibe. It was only 10 years ago that I actually got my hands on a physical copy of The Exorcist, and I got to watch it at home, and I did not think it was the scariest movie of all time. I thought it was rather boring, interesting, but kind of slow for me. And then recently, I actually got to check out the 50th anniversary Fathom event with my buddy and fellow critic Aaron Medeiros, and I gotta say, theater quality sound makes so much of a difference. I was actually just frightened and jumping in my seat with all the usual scares that I already know that I saw at home already. When I first heard the news that David Gordon Green was tackling not only a sequel, but a whole new trilogy to the original Exorcist, I was like thinking, what the fuck are they gonna do with that story? What more do they have to say about William Friedkin's classic, let alone William Peter Blatty's legacy? Now, I love Michael Myers. He's one of my favorite horror icons, and I'll watch all the Halloween movies any day of the week, no matter how bad they are. But with The Exorcist, Pazuzu ain't Michael Myers. And to be honest, people don't come to the Exorcist movies for whatever fucking demon is possessing whatever fucking girl today of the week. People come to The Exorcist for its story. So what kind of fans do they expect to scrape up here? Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was actually completely on board once I saw the trailer. I mean, they got the concept of two girls being possessed at the same time, and then you got Ellen Burstyn reprising her role as Chris McNeil. Seeing the early reactions to this movie, I was thinking to myself, you know what? My expectations are brought really low to the point where I could possibly enjoy this movie. I mean, heck, I really enjoyed the prequels. I know a lot of people don't like that, but you know, I had no candle to hold it up to before I actually saw the rest of the franchise. But damn, does the first act really hook me in just to suck any hope I had left by Act 2. Starting off with the positives, this isn't the worst thing that I've seen this year, and its chances of rewatchability is far better than Dominion and Heretic any day of the week. One of the strongest elements that this movie has got going for is that it's doing its own thing without trying so hard to tie itself to the IP. I do love the father and daughter dynamic between Victor and Angela Fielding, played by Leslie Odom Jr. and Lydia Jewett. Just the perspective of the parents are just truly terrifying, especially when you really put yourself in their shoes and the feeling of trying to find your lost child. With the bizarre occurrences where the demon possessions become a little more present, makes the helplessness and the fear with the ordeal much more nerve-wracking. Leaning more into the more mixed opinions, but leaning more into the bad, I would have to say that because the film does not present its title card till the end credits of the movie, I would have forgotten that we were watching an Exorcist sequel till we got to the second act. And that's because the production may look pristine, but the filmmakers failed to capture the creepy and unsettling atmosphere that the original movie had. Now, I did enjoy some of the disturbing images and some of the practical effects that were executed, but I just wish they pushed it further. I mean, Reagan had some fucked up moments in the original film, especially with like the crucifix scene and even like that small moment where she's spider crawling down the stairs, but nothing here amounts to that same shock value. Now, the script lacks an opportunity and balance to completely flesh out character development, but I do have to admit there are some notable performances to be addressed, starting off with Angela and Catherine. Those two young girls, especially when they get possessed, really give it their 110% when the spotlight is given to them. Now, I have seen other movies with Leslie Odom Jr. attached to them, but not until here did I actually notice him as the star. But he is tremendous in the role, and I sure hope he gets more leading roles in the near future. Ann Dowd was no surprise. I think she has some really great moments to shine, especially towards the third act, and she has one of the best monologues towards the end of the movie. Ellen Burstyn, with how much she was given, I do have to admit I really commend her performance with swallowing her pride and actually showing up the way she did. Getting into the negatives, starting off with Olivia O'Neill, who plays Catherine, she had little to no character development, which made it very difficult to care about her and her state of possession the same way that they handled the narrative with Angela. And the fact of the matter is that she's like the main face of the marketable poster. And especially with the parents, I could give two shits about, because they were the rich, snobby Christians who had the answer for everything. There are supporting characters, friends, neighbors, a pastor that get involved within the second and third act, and because the movie isn't over 2 hours to flesh them out at the slightest, they felt completely out of place participating in the exorcism. Like, who the fuck are you? By having a community support, I'm actually surprised that the writers did not recycle their infamous line from Halloween Kills, "Evil dies tonight!" Once we get to the second act, we are reintroduced to Ellen Burstyn's character, and the movie desperately tries to connect any tie they had with the original film. She is now an exorcist expert, not an exorcist, an expert, who wrote a book and gives us 10 minutes of screen time. What a way to utilize and bench your legacy character. So Ellen Burstyn actually made this public a few months before the movie came out, but she actually turned down the offer to reprise her role in this sequel. The studio tried to double her salary and she turned it down. They tried to triple it, she turned it down. They tried to quadruple it, and she still turned it down. And it's not until they decided to fund the scholarship that she wanted did she finally get to say yes. And that's how they got her. Fucking money talks. I swear, they probably only had her on set for like a few days, because you could honestly rip out all her scenes and it would not consequentially affect the story in any way, shape, or form. The third act felt completely rushed, holding no merit to its stakes, and with the exit of the priest, I thought it was pretty risky for an ex-nun and civilians to perform various rituals from other cultures in order to defeat the demon. I get it, it's interesting, it sounds great on paper, but I just wish that they explored that element just a little bit further instead of treating it like The Exorcist's greatest hits. This is not a spoiler because this was mentioned in an interview with David Gordon Green. You can Google it, you can YouTube it, but I would have to admit, I fucking hate how poorly they mishandled the demon Lamashtu. That was the evil entity possessing the girls. Oh yeah, that's right. Pazuzu is not a presence in this movie, which was a trick by the creative team to keep the evil entity as vague and marketable to the fans as possible. Because you don't hear them say the fucking name. You don't see no Pazuzu image. Oh no. Overall, unattached to The Exorcist, this is a digestible and mediocre at best demon possession flick that I would have to say, it isn't boring, so I would honestly watch it again if I had to. As a legacy sequel, it is an abysmal, faithless, corporate dumpster fire that spits in the face of fans in hopes of cashing in on nostalgia. The future of this supposed trilogy is looking highly unlikely at this point, whether they fire and replace this Blumhouse team or cancel the trilogy entirely. I think the only card they have left to play is that if they pay out and write a really big role for Linda Blair to come back as Reagan. Alright guys, that's all I got to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out, or don't. Or at least don't pay for it. But thank you guys again so much for watching. Look forward to more reviews. I am Jaren Agbanawag, and I'll see you guys at the movies. Take care.